morning. Welcome back to Cityline. With me, I have the City of Neighborhoods Conference, and you're wondering, what is that? Well, let's find out. Please join me in welcoming a very familiar face, Patricia Lecy Davis. You are co-founder and current vice president of Go Local. Correct. Welcome, my dear.
Thank you.
Good to have you back in the seat. You look
good to be
lovely.
here again.
And this handsome man, who I see everywhere in Tacoma, I've bought several Christmas trees from him. This is Justin Mayfield. You are the director of Local Life. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. Okay, so first off, what is city neighborhoods? I mean, we have them, but what is it, Justin?
Well, it's really, it's a couple things, but the main thing is to really focus on neighborhoods as an important thing, and that kind of our tagline is great cities are made of great neighborhoods. So it's a conference that's pulling people together that are doing amazing things all throughout the city, from all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of projects, and we're really saying, hey, these things all have an impact on a neighborhood level. And how can we put these things together to have a cohesive view of neighborhood and really help form neighborhood identities and strong relationships within neighborhoods, and really kind of focus on making Tacoma great one neighborhood at a time.
I love that. Trish, would you add anything to that?
I would. I just had a conversation with somebody yesterday about kind of our city and how some cities work, and when you think about primary employers or economic engines. So say, for our example, we have the port and we have some other big employers. If somebody was going to come and work for Franciscan or Multicare or even the port, they're going to check out their neighborhoods.
Yes.
That's going to be the deciding factor of if they take that job. And all of those primary employers, every employee in that business supports independent business, or 2 to 3 independent businesses. And those are usually in these great little neighborhoods. And when you can walk in your neighborhood and go to coffee and know the people on the corner and know who your neighbors are, like, that's where it starts. That's the thread of that connectivity, so that when decisions are made or things happen, you find a way that you can be part of that rather than it just happening to you.
Absolutely.
So it all starts at the neighborhoods.
It does. 14 years ago when I moved here, we found the neighborhood first. We didn't work in Tacoma. We just found the neighborhood and said, oh, we want to buy here. And that's how it started. So when we talk about neighborhoods, there's some words that we kind of have thrown around that I want to throw at both of you. Holistic, walkable, identifiable neighborhoods. What does that mean, Justin?
Well, holistic is really the idea that neighborhoods can and maybe should facilitate more of life than just sleeping or just working or just shopping, but they can be something you can live, work, shop, eat, play. They can really facilitate the opportunity to have, you know, shared relationships with the people you work with, the people you eat with. They could be the same people. And it's also the opportunity for, you know, businesses and, say, business districts to be supported by the residents that are near them.
There we go. That's
Amanda goes, we know that topic.
That is, you have said it right there. That sums it all up. So people are wondering, okay, you've defined a neighborhood, you've defined how people make decisions, so what
Actually, we haven't defined the neighborhoods. We want people to define their own neighborhoods.
Right. So, but this show, you've defined it. Because I want to find out exactly what is City of Neighborhoods Conference. What will I expect? What will happen to me while I'm there, Trish?
It is a first-year conference, and in my opinion, I'm hoping that this is kind of an exploratory thing and really just to get people talking. Okay. So we don't really have a framework or an end result of what we think people need to experience. We want the experience to happen organically. So we want people to come and say what neighborhood they're in, how do they define their neighborhood, what does their neighborhood mean to them, what is their neighborhood missing, what are some of the great assets and people of their neighborhoods, and how can those neighborhoods cross over and connect with each other. And that's really where you get into the city of neighborhoods, is that when we start connecting all of those points, we can become stronger as a whole, instead of it being Proctor and Madrona and Dome and Stadium. It's now all these neighborhoods. And what about the neighborhoods that are beyond the 15 programmatic neighborhood business districts? There's tons of neighborhoods all throughout Tacoma that aren't even really on the map.
That is incredible. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, and I would add to that that when we become strong in our neighborhoods, one of the other words we said is identifiable. And when we have a strong identity as a neighborhood, and we have the ability to kind of have a culture that's unique to our neighborhood, we can be more united to support other neighborhoods and connect to other neighborhoods versus just individuals that are sort of part of the masses.
Exactly. Now, you have some guest speakers that we have some shots we're going to put up here, and I want to talk about, you've got Jim Diers, you've got Milenko So talk with us about what we can expect from those speakers.
Okay, well, Jim is a peach, and he has a lot of Tacoma roots, but he's been in a long time. That's Milenko,
That's
actually.
Milenko.
Jim has have a reputation. He started in, I think, '88 in Seattle, where he was put in charge of the newly created Department of Neighborhoods. There's about 4 people that were part of it at that point, and then it transitioned to, through the time he was there, to about 100 people. And things like the Fremont Troll and all kinds of amazing things. A lot of Seattle neighborhoods where there's identities and sense of, like, you have Ballard and South Lake Union and all these different neighborhoods in Seattle that you can just say without even saying Seattle. A lot of that came through a lot of Jim's leadership and efforts, and he's really a proponent of bottom-up community development, which we can talk about in a second. But he travels the world now. He wrote a book called Neighbor Power, and travels the world talking about these things. So he'll have stories from all over the world, and through almost 30 years of community development, that he'll be able to share of people on the ground in neighborhoods who live and work there and are business owners and all these things, be able to come together and see their neighborhood really be all that it could possibly be.
Wow. If that wasn't enough, what can you tell us about Milenko?
I had the opportunity to go through Milenko's Pomegranate Center workshop a couple years ago in the summertime on Saturdays, and it was called Multiple Victories. And it was about bringing community together and having that conversation, facilitating the conversation, giving the empowerment back to the neighborhoods and the community to say, what do you want to happen with this space? Or what do you want? And it was about building spaces, and walked us all the way through a very great structure of community input, steering committees, how you put that information into play, how you got consensus, how you involved the whole community. And I'm really excited to hear him talk to the larger group here in Tacoma, and hopefully we'll get to do some of that process.
Yeah. You've bantered around that phrase, and I want to define it before we run out of time here, and that is bottom-up community development. What does that mean?
Well, another word you could say is ground up. But basically, I hate to define things by what they're juxtaposed by, but it is easier in this case because I think a lot of times community development is seen as an outside organization or government entity coming in and saying, we're going to develop this place with this strategic plan.
Right.
And we're saying that that's so important to have, the top, if you will, involved because they have resources and abilities to enforce things that people on the ground can't. But it can't happen without the ground. And in fact, we're saying that if it starts with the ground, then there's indigenous leadership and knowledge and ownership on the ground, and there's a lot more assets and resources that are activated because now I'm an asset, and what I do and what you do is an asset, and the knowledge and the skills that you have and the relationships we have and our eyes on the street for added safety and all these amazing things that we can do to work together, and then get the city involved and get outside organizations involved to support those things.
Incredible. So Trish, when I think about that day, we've talked about the 2 people who will be there that I would love to hear. What are some of the workshops and the themes that we can expect to experience?
Well, we have, in the morning, we have 5 or 6 short rapid fires. So you'll hear kind of a couple different themes of things there. Local living economies, local vesting from a group on Vashon called Lion. We'll be talking a little bit about the built environment. I met a woman last night who's one of the speakers whose son was Billy Ray Shirley from the East Side, who just this last year was killed, and she has since then started a foundation to carry on his dream of having a community center on the East Side so that the kids have somewhere to go. And her story was just amazing. So cob building, there's just all sorts of things. We have 10 workshops in 2 different cycles, so there'll be a lot of things to experience.
Along with the organicness of
cross-district association, neighborhood councils, and neighborhood business districts, along with Carol Wolf, so that people can understand how they can touch base and where they can go for resources and what those actual entities do.
There we go. Because when we talk, that was the piece I was going to ask you. When we talk about the whole bottom up, when you talk about the top part, that's where the city comes in. I think that people don't always understand, much like the Freedom Fair is not a city of Tacoma event, there are things that the city can take care of or ways that they can get grants and make things easier. But they have to hear from the people who live in those neighborhoods.
Absolutely. And this is, we're trying to bring this together here. We hope that the neighborhood councils, for one, they've chosen, at least one of them have chosen to come to this and support us financially rather than going to NUSA, which was their national thing that they send someone to every year. And they're looking at this as an opportunity to have neighborhood councils come together and actually share with each other local ideas and things to do. So we're hoping for a lot to come out of this.
Okay, so let's get some logistics out there. When, where, how much, all of that, Justin.
June 30th, University of Washington Tacoma. Phillip Hall's the main gathering space, and then we'll break out into 10 different classrooms for the workshops. $20. And it goes from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. There are scholarships available, so we're not going to turn anyone away. Part of that money just goes because we would like to see people invest in the day themselves and kind of put a little skin in the game. We think that's a good thing. But we also say, you know, if they can't afford that, we want them to be there anyway. So we're not turning anyone away. They can volunteer, they can get a scholarship, whatever it is, we want them to be there.
Okay, and last thing, what do you need?
Lots of exposure. Tell everybody to come. It's an open day, and we want to hear people's input. This isn't a crafted thing that, you know, we're doing. We want to hear from the neighborhoods in the community.
I want to hear from those people. I know it's been all over Facebook. Great article in the Weekly about it. So, and of course, now you're on TV Tacoma. So let's just hope that this becomes a quarterly event where we can get together and check in and see how people are doing with identifying how and why they live in these neighborhoods. Because only good can come out of this. I am convinced of it. So thank you, first off, you. When do you sleep?
I'm in bed by 10 o'clock every night.
Sure you are, but that's not sleeping. So thank you for all the work that you do for Tacoma. Just when I think you've done enough, you pull something else out of your hat. We need to have you come back on the show and talk about Mom, your market. So thank you so much for continuing to be so passionately consistent.
Thanks.
That's what you are. And Mr. Justin, you are a bright light on the scene. I should have known when I bought a Christmas tree from you, you know, 3 years ago. I was like, oh, this is a great idea. I got to watch this guy. You got your feet wet in the farmer's market, and you just continued to fly. So thank you so very much for picking Tacoma to give us your talents, and you're amazing. All right, you two, I'll see you there.
Thank you.
All right. When we come back, another great festival we have is the Urban Art Festival. You don't want to miss that. We'll be right back after these messages. Summer. The kids are